Hello and welcome to One Trek Mind. This is Michael.
And I'm Raptor.
And today we're going to be talking about our initial thoughts on Star Trek Prodigy. It's been one of the only show that we have neglected to actually watch in the entire franchise of Star Trek. We had some reservations about it initially, but decided to give it a go since it is the only thing we haven't seen, and wanted to discuss our initial thoughts, our first reaction to the first couple of episodes of the show.
Yeah, we're about 5 episodes in, I think it is, and we thought we would just do a bit of an off-the-cuff discussion about it. This wasn't the planned video for this week, but yeah, we thought we'd just give it have a bit of a discussion, go over what we liked, what we didn't like, present our thoughts. I think it's fair to say straight off the bat that one of the reservations that we both had about the show is this is primarily a kids show and how Star Trek was going to translate to a kids show. But after the 5 episodes, I've been reasonably surprised with how well of a job they've done making Star Trek into a kids show, but also it's not I want to say some aspects are definitely over the top, but I think there is still very much a serious undercurrent to a lot of what we've seen so far as well.
I would agree. It takes itself more seriously than I had expected it to. Seems to be, as of now, pretty competent in its storytelling. I will say some of the characters are definitely noticeably childish and very much characters in a kid show, but even then there's a few that are remarkably mature and interesting, considering I expected the entire cast to just be comprised of children who are kind of playing at Star Trek. But no, there's a level of maturity to some of these characters that I really enjoy.
I mean, I think the most serious of them is this Gwendala, I think is how it's pronounced, who's the prodigy of the big bad guy, as it seems from what we've seen so far. She's very serious, and there's clearly some trauma, or shall we say difficult upbringing and stuff involved there.
I would also say Zero is a fairly mature character, which I think makes sense considering they're a Medusan. Like, they're not a child or an adult, they're not male or female, they're a very unique type of character, and I would say out of the bunch, Zero is probably my favorite thus far.
I'm quite liking the Tellarite, only because I feel like the Tellarites don't get as much exposure in Star Trek as I feel they should. They're one of the pretty important species. They're one of the original founding members of Starfleet, and yet,
which is crazy to me considering they just insult people.
Well, that's kind of why I like them, because they are written predominantly as a species that literally serves itself for comedic moments, really. A race of people that always want to argue and insult and have a fight and be, for want of another word, cuntish to everybody. It sets itself up perfectly for comedic moments, and I don't understand why Star Trek never made more use of them. The only show to actually make use of them is the much derided Enterprise, and yet I honestly feel Enterprise did a very good job with the Vulcans, the Andorians, and the Tellarites. So it was nice to see them coming back. I am a bit of a fan of Murph as well, but that's mostly because I used to own African land snails, and I kind of like slugs and snails in general, so a character who is essentially just a gelatinous goo. I kind of find him adorable.
He's their Porthos of the show, which not as adorable as Porthos, unfortunately, but I do like him. He's also good for comedic relief, and in general, it's just kind of cute. It's a nice little addition to the crew.
You have a bit of a soft spot for the Rock character.
What is her name again? I know it's something Rock, which
according to
hilarious.
According to Google, it's literally Rock Talk or Talk.
Rock Talk, that's it. I do like her. I don't know, I really have always enjoyed characters that are like really rough and brutish looking on the outside, but are like really gentle and soft on the inside. It's just such an endearing type of character to me. And I genuinely felt for her in the episode where they were all having their hallucinations and she saw these like cute little creatures like cuddling with her, and like how upsetting it was to her that that's something she desperately wants, is just to be seen as like a nice person that is worthy of cuddles and attention and love. Like that actually hit me kind of hard, surprisingly hard for being so fresh into the show, and like how little I'm invested in it just yet. So I was impressed with that aspect of the character. I really felt for her, and I don't know, I just I enjoy seeing her grow as a character. Thus far there hasn't been a huge amount of growth, but she's, you know, slowly learning how to be like part of a team and everything. So I think she's pretty cool. I mean, the only character I currently can't stand is our main character.
Which is the problem.
He just drives me insane with how egotistical and yeah, he's just so, I can't even think of the right word for it.
Arrogant.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best word to describe it. It's just so utterly
stupid,
arrogant,
selfish, arrogant.
I wouldn't say he's stupid.
Short-sighted.
I will give him that. He is very crafty and was able to figure out how to, you know, get through the Kobayashi Maru and actually learned a lesson from it, which I appreciated. But I feel like he has a long ways to go before I can actually enjoy the character, because, yeah, as of right now, he's made a lot of decisions and a lot of comments where I'm just like, just shut up, please. I can't stand you. I feel like there are 3 other characters who would make a better captain, and you're just driving me nuts.
Yes, so it remains to be seen if we will warm up to him more the more he hopefully grows as a character. Hologram Janeway, it's always nice to see Janeway come back.
I love her.
Star Trek. And Hologram Janeway felt like a reasonable approximation of Janeway as well. I didn't feel that the character had been deliberately altered or was different. It just felt like normal Janeway to me.
I mean, she even asked for coffee at one point, which I was like, yes, that is so Janeway. I love that.
So yeah, the characters are fairly decent. The ship, the Protostar. I have some things to say about the Protostar.
I mean, I like the ship, but I do feel like it leans into the territory of sort of cliche sci-fi tropes, like a lot of holographic imaging on all the panels and screens, has a very like white, simplistic look to everything. Not every part of the ship, but mostly the bridge is what I'm talking about.
Shiny chrome hull.
I personally don't mind the shiny chrome hull or the very, very large set of windows for the bridge windows. I like a good window on my bridge. Again, every ship has had a window. They all had windows.
Given how small the Protostar is as a ship, because obviously I've seen it in Star Trek Online, so I already know how big it is compared to other starships, I feel it's less egregious here. This ship is a lot smaller. It's a bit like a shuttlecraft, and shuttlecrafts have windows, so fine. I don't like the fact it's clearly Abrams styled. The nacelles are very Abramsy, all the way to the point of the bright white lights at the very back of them, which I really don't like. But my biggest problem with the Protostar is the thing that makes it special, which is yet again another pulled out of arse propulsion system. It is the Discovery's spore drive was complicated enough. Oh, let's have these bits of the saucer section spinning around, and then we'll spin the ship, and then we'll go. Protostar, it's no, parts of the hull have to open up and then deploy, and then this engine folds out and deploys again, and then the nacelles drop down, and then we go. It's like Shinzon's Thaleron weapon. It's the most overcomplicated piece of technology I've ever seen.
You see, I actually have 0 issues with the propulsion system on this.
It's like Transformers.
I really disliked the spore drive because it completely removes tension, it removes travel time, it's just, in general, too easy of a get-out-of-jail-free card for me. Here, they've, at the very least, just explained it as really, really fast warp, and I'm like, okay, we've had transwarp in other faster forms of warp travel before, so that's not too much of a leap for me. And they, upon having used it, apparently have a very long cooldown time in between uses that they can, so it's not like it completely will save them in every scenario, which I imagine in future episodes we're going to see how that could be a problem, or I would at least hope so, since they have set it up that way. So I really don't have a problem with it.
I suppose I just don't see the necessity of having Transformers style thing going on with the back. You could just have it go through the nacelles normally and be fine.
I mean, I'm fine with a little bit of flair.
Maybe. It just made me think of Discovery and how they have to have some sort of over-exaggerated, overly complicated showing off thing. But apart from that, I think it's a decent enough ship. The internal replicator is an interesting idea to build shuttlecraft and stuff.
That is.
It has always been sort of the eternal problem with Star Trek having the replicator is then asking, well, why don't you just replicate starships then in that case? Why do you go through the process of constructing them in space docks? There are explanations about replication isn't perfect, and therefore if you are building something as big and complicated as a starship, then you kind of don't want to have faults and stuff. But this kind of demonstrates, if you could sort that out, how good of an idea it would be. I am glad to see a proper ground vehicle come back as well. As much as people deride Nemesis for their Warthog, I liked the Argo. I thought it was about time that we started seeing some actual Star Trek ground vehicles. I mean, it seems to be one of the strange things that Star Trek has never really dabbled with, is showing us how people get about. I suppose once you have transporter technology, getting about is easier, but I think it still makes sense to have some vehicles that you know, go for a jolly on an alien planet.
They've had plenty of episodes and scenarios throughout Star Trek where they have to walk very long distances to, like, find something. They know, like, all right, we're in the area-ish, but we don't know exactly where the person is or where the item we're looking for is. And it's like, wouldn't it be easier if you had some sort of vehicle to get you around a little quicker and over rough terrain? It seems like it would be. And I also kind of like the vehicle here in Prodigy. It very much reminds me of the Mass Effect, what is it, the Hammerhead?
Well, isn't it the Mako to begin
No,
with?
the Mako, that's right. There's too many terms that cross over. We have Mako in Star Trek. But yeah, it reminds me very much of that with the 6 wheels and it being like this rugged terrain vehicle. I do kind of agree with you that it looks a little ugly though. Just the way they've shaped the chassis on top of it isn't the most appealing.
Bit of a strange shape vehicle overall. But I'm wondering if they had a particular... In some ways, it does remind me of some sort of like moon buggy concepts and stuff I've seen. So I'm wondering if that was sort of the style that they were going for. But yeah, in general, it's nice to see a ground vehicle come back. What do we make of our bad guys so far? The Diviner, who is related to Gwendala.
It's difficult to say anything about them just yet.
I think we also have to have special mention to discount General Grievous.
Very much so, yeah. It's difficult to say much about the villains at this point because I know very little about their motivations. Like, we know what they're after, but we don't know why, other than his entire species has been wiped out because of reasons that are unknown at the moment. So it's just him and his daughter, little clone daughter.
Which I would say is it feels like a very Star Trek-y setup, and I hope they don't be cliche with the bad guy, and I hope that actually they kind of do it in a proper Star Trek way, and they get to the bottom of why his people like deal with the him in a good way and make him not just like cliche evil, and perhaps have a positive ending, because the whole idea of being sort of last of his species, and that's a big character point that I think needs some explanation. So I'm hoping they do something good with that.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it at the moment because, again, I can't really say I like or dislike the villain currently. I do feel like Both of them remind me of Star Wars characters, though, just because he's like in a big vat of like healing fluid, and I was like, okay, Darth Vader. And then you also have Dreadnought as General Grievous.
Dreadnought's General Grievous, yeah.
I guess I'm not like enthralled with the amount of creativity there, just because it does feel very familiar, but I did like the moment where he chooses to go after the ship over his daughter. It made me, one, it proves to her and to the audience like, okay, so this is definitely villainous behavior right here, but again, it just lends itself more to me wanting to find out why he wants this ship so badly. Like, what about this ship is going to help him? Because I can't seem to come up with a reasonable theory based off of the information we have.
How do you think the show handles it being a Star Trek show? Because obviously the last episode we watched was pretty much a celebration of Star Trek. There was a lot of references in there.
Can't believe we got Odo.
Obviously using voice clips from the episodes that they were in. It was quite interesting listening to the voice clips that they picked and being like, oh, I remember that episode.
For me, that was a little distracting. I feel like, as unfortunate as it is, they probably should have picked characters that they could get the actors for, or get an actor
Obviously,
who...
Beverly's lines were new, but...
No, yeah, she clearly came back to voice the character, which was nice. But in the cases of the characters that had passed away, I'm sure it was done intentionally to, you know, pay respects to them and the characters and everything. But I did find it really distracting how Spock's lines in particular, the audio would sound like 60 years old because it was, and nothing else was. So it kind of pulled me out of it a little bit, but I did enjoy seeing the characters all together, like an all-star crew. Like, we literally just made a video about our desired all-star crew, and they basically did the same thing in Prodigy, so that was kind of nice.
At least I had one. None of your picks were there.
Yeah, none of my picks were there. That's okay.
I only had the one.
Wait, who did you have?
Uhura.
Oh, that's right.
But so far, I think they're doing the references quite well. I like the fact that at the very beginning, it's clear that we're in the Delta Quadrant because the Kazon show up. They're giving whatever it is they're digging up to the Kazon.
I'm gonna say, I like that the show doesn't start in Federation space. We're starting out in the Delta Quadrant and getting to see some different things. Hopefully they get to see like another civilization somewhere. I would really like to see that. And thus far, we've only come across one M-class planet that was just trying to eat them. But again, we're still very early on in the show. I mean, they're currently in the Gamma Quadrant, which again makes me wonder if we're going to do anything with the Dominion, which would be really cool. I would really, really like that. See maybe some Jem'Hadar or something. But I also worry that they won't do anything with it just because that is fairly heavy material to deal with in a kid's show. So I could see them just avoiding that entirely. But I would really love it if they did. That would be quite nice.
And we've also just had the reveal that Chuckles, as Q calls him, Chakotay, is back on the scene. Which I thought was very interesting given his disparaging comments about the Prime Directive, especially.
I mean, yeah, he was not the biggest fan of working on Star Trek, which is surprising that he would come back for it. But again, like I said, he's an actor, and an actor's got to pay his bills, so I'm sure he, given the opportunity, was like, sure, why not?
And I always felt that he and Kate Mulgrew had a pretty good chemistry on Voyager. I mean, we all wanted Chuckles and Janeway to be together. We were all pushing for it.
I didn't. I was not one of those people. I was like, no thanks, I'm good. I don't really want to see Chakotay get with anyone in this crew, personally.
But yeah, I thought they had good chemistry in general, Janeway and Chakotay, so hoping we're going to have some more of that. And obviously other characters dropping in as well. I already know there's a few coming in.
And I don't. I'm super blind to everything about this show, so it's all going to be a big surprise for me.
I only know a smattering of stuff I've picked up on, so... And I think one thing we did enjoy is the theme tune.
Mhm.
After Picard's and Discoveries, we thought Prodigy's theme was actually pretty good.
It's not quite as good as Strange New Worlds, but it's up there in the pantheon of like great Star Trek intro songs. I really enjoy the theme quite a lot.
We're probably going to have to do a rating of that.
Ooh, people are going to be mad about mine because there's a lot of legacy shows where I'm like not the biggest fan of these, and those are, you know, the prized theme songs that I think most people would put at the top of their list.
Yes, that one will probably be quite a controversial list. But yeah, Prodigy's I thought was pretty good. So overall, I think we're definitely happy to keep watching it. I think it's more of there are some things we kind of need to watch more of to get a better idea on it. But so far, we're reasonably impressed, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm pleasantly surprised thus far with what I've seen, and I'm excited to continue on with it. Even though it's not looking good for the continuation of the show, I believe it still hasn't been picked up for a season 3.
No, I don't think it has. Hang on, let me check what Wikipedia says quickly. Yes, it's had a bit of a tumultuous time, actually. A bit like the original series. I mean, it had its first season on Nickelodeon. It received positive reviews and won a Children's and Family Emmy Award. And work had already commenced on the second season when it was cancelled and removed from Paramount Plus. What is it with big corporations cancelling stuff that wins them awards? This has happened in gaming a lot lately as well. It makes no sense to me.
I mean, awards don't really mean anything to a corporation. It's audience numbers and revenue. And I'm assuming the audience for this show is relatively small in comparison to other projects, which is my best guess as to why they would have canceled it.
But yeah, so far there's nothing on the third season at the present time.
So yeah, we might be in for an unfortunate sudden end when we reach the end of season 2, but I'm still game to see what they had in the first place. Almost every Star Trek show ever has been canceled a little before they wanted to. Almost. There's some that clearly got a really decent run, but especially with newer Star Trek, almost all of them have been canceled before they reached a point that they actually wanted to get to, all starting with Enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, all of them, for instance, then Enterprise and Discovery got the chopping block. Picard, I think, naturally had a better deal. So yeah, it will be sad if another Star Trek show gets the axe, especially if what is true about season 2 being very, very good is true, which we'll have to see when we get there. But yeah, we'll continue. We won't be sort of doing episode reviews. I think we'll do it. I think it's a good idea to do it in like blocks. We'll watch a few and then give our thoughts from there. So let us know down in the comments what you think of Prodigy. Don't spoil anything for us if you watch the whole show. Just, you know, give us a spoiler-free sort of thinking about it. Yeah, let us know your thoughts. Oh, and don't forget, obviously, while you are there giving us your thoughts, please remember to like the video. Do subscribe if you're new to the channel to keep us growing through the year. And we'll see you next time. But until then, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye for me.